E to the E. All right. Looks like I'm live with my new podcast setup. Yes, I've been investing in myself as you should invest in you. But welcome to this live stream.
Ooh, yeah! Woo! Yeah, boy!
Got my new soundboard, got some sound effects. Super excited about that. Hopefully, you like that. But welcome to this live stream. Today, I really wanted to talk about how you are what you consume. So that means whatever you eat, watch, whoever you hang out with, whatever you listen to, you are what you consume, whether it's positive or negative. Uh, so before I really get into things, I got some housekeeping to do. So you always have to have the hook and then you promote yourself and then you get back into it. That's how this thing works. So before we get into it, just a quick reminder about the Coaches and Content podcasts available on YouTube, all podcast platforms. Just search for Coaches and Content. And I also have an email list now where you can get my interviews emailed to you. I write like a weekly newsletter with stuff like this. So if you love this kind of stuff, check my link in the description below. Sign up for my email list. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what you need to
boy!
do. You need some positivity in your life. So, with that being said, let's jump into what it means when I say that you are what you consume. So I basically had a realization recently that, I know that I need constant reminders of what I'm trying to do, my mission, my purpose, what I'm trying to accomplish. So, I tend to watch certain people on YouTube. I tend to listen to certain things. I tend to watch certain things, talk to certain people, because I realized that I needed a constant reminder to stay on track. And that's kind of where I got this idea of you are what you consume. So I kind of wanted to jump into what I mean when I say, you are what you consume. Because there's so much craziness going on in the world. We watch the news and TikTok and all this stuff, and we don't really realize how it affects us and how what we consume, you know, makes us who we are. So I'm probably going to say that about 20 times in this video, is that you are what you consume, because it's so true. And I just don't think we really realize what that means, because we consume so much between what we watch, who we talk to, what we eat. We consume a lot on a daily basis. So we internalize it and it makes us who we are. So let's talk about some examples of what it means. So one example is, you're constantly going to be feeling doomy and gloomy. I don't know if those are real words. I just made them up, but you're going to constantly be feeling doomy and gloomy if you're watching the news all the time. I get it. You want to stay informed and stuff like that. But the news is really just here to keep you scared and control you. Let's keep it honest. Local news is great, but national news is just there to scare you and control you. And that's what it does. So when you consume that stuff constantly, it's going to take over your brain. So if you want to feel doomy and gloomy all the time, just keep watching the news. Another example is if you're always around negative people and people who I'll call losers, we all know who they are. You're going to constantly feel like a negative person and a loser, because that's what you're consuming and that's what you're internalizing. If you're constantly watching Law and Order, if you're constantly watching Law and Order marathons and true crime documentaries, you're going to walk around being scared all the time, thinking everyone's messed up and you can't trust anyone. Now, listen, I'm not judging anyone. I love Law and Order just as much as anyone else. Shout out to Ice T. I actually interviewed him a long time ago. He told me I was a G. And, I love Law and Order too. Don't get me wrong. I think consuming stuff's okay. But if you're constantly consuming that kind of stuff, it's going to constantly warp your view on the world. So, Law and Order here and there is great. But if you're sitting around on a Saturday watching 8 hours of Law and Order, and no wonder why, you might feel like shit, or you might be whatever, feeling a type of way. So that's another example of what I mean. Another good example is if you eat too much fast food, you're going to become a clown. All right. Let me say that again. If you eat too much fast food, you will become a clown. So that's another example of you are what you consume. Because if you consume too much McDonald's, you're going to become a fat clown. So this also works in reverse. So I just gave a bunch of negative examples, but the positive examples are on the flip side. the more protein that you consume, the more raw food that you consume, the better you'll feel, the less groggy you'll feel, the more focused you'll feel. So again, you are what you consume. The healthier foods that you eat, the better you'll feel. The more motivational and inspirational content like this and my podcast or all the other content out there, the more motivational content that you watch and inspirational content that you watch, the more motivated and inspired you'll feel. And I can attest for that personally, because I know for me, that's what helps me, especially in the morning. I know there's a lot of people out there who love David Goggins. If you watch a David Goggins video when you first wake up before you start your day, there's no way you're not going to have a productive day, because he's just a productive guy. He's telling you how it is. He's telling you what he's been through, what he's doing. So you are what you consume. The more productive and positive content that you consume, the more productive and positive you will feel, because you are what you consume. So I think we just need to keep this in mind in our everyday life. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, you need to realize that what you consume, you take in internally, and it affects your brain and it affects your life. And all this stuff adds up. Every second, every minute, every hour of your day adds up. And everything you do carries on to the next day, to the next month, to the next year. So you want to break this habit now, and you want to realize that you are what you consume. So I think you should take a minute. I know I've done this. I did like internal checklists of what I consume. And I actually kind of made a pact with myself about 6 to 8 months ago, right when I started my podcast, that I'm going to start creating more content versus consuming more content. Because, it's great to watch your favorite show, but to sit around and binge watch something for 6 to 8 hours, how do you feel after that? How do you feel the next day? Do you feel like you wasted a day? There's so much stuff to be doing, and I'm not judging because I do it too. But, a lot of these videos are really just kind of like my own journal and blog, and I just hope it resonates with other people. So I hope you don't take this as me judging, because, I'm a human. I love the binge shows too. But I just realized that I am what I consume. So I'm trying to consume more positive stuff. So that's it for today. Just wanted to do something quick. So I challenge you to think about what you're consuming, who you're talking to, what you're eating, what you're watching, what you're listening to, who you're hanging out with, who you take advice from. Do an internal checklist. Think about that. And then remember that you are what you consume. So that's it for today. Well, thank you for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. And that's it. So make sure you check out the Coaches and Content podcast. It's on YouTube, all podcast platforms. I have a ton of other content like this. I have interviews with a lot of awesome people. So check it out. And I love the feedback I'm getting from everyone. So that's why I'm still doing this stuff, because some people are watching. It's helping me. I hope it helps you. And this is me signing off.